Oh, as I swing the mic over to me, as usual, falling behind my own, on my own prep. It's a Monday. Hopefully, everyone can see me and hear me, so that I don't compound Monday laziness with Monday technical difficulties. Welcome, everybody. Hey, Krister. Hey, Perkins. All right. Oh yeah, and check out Perkins. Thanks for posting a little bit about your solo methodology over on the forums. So go to forums.hexpress.press. You can see Perkins' post, which I've already asked for more detail because it seems interesting. Krister, thanks for confirming that I can be seen and can be heard. I don't think I have any particular notes. I did something a little bit different over the weekend. I recorded a reading of an excerpt from Beowulf. I don't think I actually did a very good job with it, but it was kind of fun to do. I think next time it came together really, really kind of late, short. And so I just threw something together. I think hopefully I'd like to take more care with it next time, but it was a fun exercise. Hey, Dr. Portman, it definitely makes you appreciate the difficulties of folks that do that. Of course, I don't have an acting background, so I don't really have any training. I've done some improv. That's about it. That was it. So yeah, if you get a chance, check that out. Other than that, let's just get to it, shall we? This is the Brukesian Duchy from, I believe they're called Elven Tower Adventures. Travel procedures, 19 detailed hexes, roll 20 maps. Of course, I don't think we're going to really get a chance to look at the roll 20 maps. It's a system neutral OSR supplement, I guess, immersive hexcrawl regional setting for any medieval fantasy role-playing game. I've heard good things about this. I've heard this called out a few times, either folks asking for good starting hexcrawl settings or mini settings, micro settings, and also people have recommended it when people have asked for such. And I hadn't really heard of it before, and then it kept kind of popping up on my feed, so I decided, well, we should take a look at it. So let's get into it. The one thing I've done, as usual with these, I have not read through it in any length. I think I did kind of just scroll through a few pages. One of the things I'm interested in, I'll definitely be interested to hear your guys' feedback in the chat and then later on in the comments and whatnot, is how you like these different layouts, how you like the amount of detail they provide. What is the kind of preferred amount of detail for these sorts of things, and mechanics or lack of mechanics. There was another book I pulled out that I'll probably do later in the week. Can I get to it? Is it close enough? Which is, I'll just throw it in front of the camera here. Let me just switch to me real quick. This Conan: Return of the Road of Kings. This is a pure settings book. It's got a lot of information on different things. I'll just show kind of one page, but it is absolutely mechanics free. I don't think there's even anything that relates back to the system for which that was originally written, which was when Mongoose Publishing had the rights to Conan. They put that together. So it's really interesting. I don't think it has any real hex maps or anything, but it is one of those really good in-depth settings books. And I'm really sort of interested in trying to see kind of what we collectively, not just me personally, but what we kind of collectively would like to see ideally from one of these types of supplements. Kind of how much hexes, how much setting, how much do we want to drill down into that setting? How much detail before we have enough? Do we want everything soup to nuts, everything in great detail? Do we want to have a lot of more gray areas, open-ended stuff, so we can more spaces for us to insert our own thoughts? We could do that anyway, but I think sometimes it's easier when someone hasn't filled in all the gaps already. That sort of thing. And this is a sip of watered down lemonade, homemade lemonade for the working man. Perkins says they struggle to read pure lore books. Yeah, I don't. I think I'd say it definitely depends on, obviously, on the book. But what I mean is something like Conan, where I have some background in it and some knowledge. I think that makes it easier for me because I can think back on the stories I've read, and I used to read the comics. Some of the Marvel comics, especially the kind of larger black and white, they were, what were they called? Larger format black and white comics. I used to read those. So you you get these hints of the world, and then you can read up on those hints. I think it helps. If it's a brand new setting, I think it's tough. The author really needs to sell me on the setting and make me interested. There's probably a whole lot of things to do on that. But yeah, it is definitely can be a difficulty. I'm going to skip some of the stuff. I'm not sure how much we'll get into. We can see here from the table of contents, looks like it's 80, 90 pages, including the thank you. Most of it detailed hexes. We will get some, looks like some overview information. I'm going to skip the how to use. I will read some of this other things, or at least the broad brush points, because this is part of the setting here and stuff we need to understand. Perkins says that their players have not been too interested in overland travel. They tend to streamline travel. However, at low-level travel can be really exciting and dangerous. Yeah, I haven't done much with the streamlining. I think that's what a lot of folks do. That's why when I on that 5th edition series, I don't use the term hexcrawl in the titles. I just use adventure or wilderness adventures, I think, because I'm acknowledging that how folks handle it is a bit different. And I think there's a lot of tools that you can use even if you're not doing a full-blown hexcrawl. I'm trying to think what I do. I don't know. We could probably do a whole discussion on what makes them interesting. Maybe something to keep in mind, because hopefully if we're using one of these books or we want to use one of these books, that's one of the questions that we're asking ourselves if we purchase this one or we have bought it, is it's a resource. How can we use whatever material is in here to hopefully do the thing we want to do, which is make hex crawls interesting? Something caught in my teeth. All right, so skipping the how to use, because hopefully it'll be pretty self-explanatory. The Duke and the Six Lords. Humans claimed the land now known as the Brukesian Duchy 150 years ago. The pioneers settled down by the Dew River, and their community grew to become the large city of Crimsonwall. Soon after the population grew enough for the crown to notice it, a member of the Crane family was appointed Duke. Since then, the Cranes have ruled over Crimsonwall and the Duchy. The Brukesian territories are 18 days away from the kingdom's capital. All subjects and the noble families are loyal to the king, but there is little the crown can do to influence the region. The duchy is a semi-independent state that handles itself and hears little from the capital as long as they send tithes of taxes. End of taxes. Let us send tithes and taxes. There are 6 noble families in the duchy. The Cranes. I'm just going to read the bold names. The Cranes, the Libbets, the Ardens, the Sotocrags, the Girlands, and the Hargans. We have another header, the Dewborn Princes. Little is known of the court of the Dewborn Princes in the duchy. What little information they have comes from scholars' conclusions and theories, or the occasional weak prisoner who reveals some fact to merciless torture. Who are the dukes? Who are the Dewborn Princes? The Dewborn Princes are a group of 7 Fey Lords who have lived in these forests for 2,000 years. Physically, the Dewborn resemble elves, but they are taller and slimmer. The skin tone is deep green and their eyes empty white. Besides, the Dewborn appear to have no gender distinction in their society. They came from a parallel plane often known as the Fey Realm and settled in the Misty Forest. The Dewborn Princes live in a large forest settlement that surrounds the grandiose Jade Palace, a marvel of architecture and wealth deep in the forest. So far, humans have only visited the Jade Palace as prisoners, and none of them have ever left. All right, so we have some basically an interesting Fey culture alongside the human culture here in this area of the Brukesian Duchy. And then we have is this still part of, might be part of the princes still. The Dewborn brought a strange mental illness with them from the Fey realm. They ignore how it works exactly, but they are not so interested since its effects do not hamper them much. People in the duchy call it the Dew fever and blame the Dewborn for it. Scholars and medicus ignore what causes the disease and how it spreads. There are many theories, though. Some say that people who drink from poison springs got it. Others say that prolonged proximity to the Dewborn causes it. Okay, so Dew fever. I'm not sure what that has to do with the itinerant parade. But all right. So we got some kind of strange Fey illness that can be spread around. But we don't get really much about what it is. Here we actually get about what the itinerant parade is. The itinerant parade consists of a large group of afflicted humanoids, Dewborn animals, and myconins that walk around the misty forest on a path that repeats every full moon. Okay, that's kind of interesting. Individuals in the parade appear oblivious to their surroundings and are only interested in walking the 28-day path through the woods. They eat what they can find and sleep on the forest floor every night, often cuddle together to keep their warmth. They often dance and sing in old tongues, and their choir is heard for miles. If attacked, the affected and any diseased nearby defend themselves vigorously. All right, cool. So you get this illness, and then I guess you end up wanting to dance on this path for ever. Dance and walk around this 28-day path Kind of cool. We're not given any info on how you get rid of it or how you catch it for that matter, other than just very vague stuff about maybe you get it from the Dewborn. We have some other folks, the Pigmen, sentient race of pig-faced humanoids that lives in the forest in small communities of 40 or fewer individuals. And then we also have myconids, so I'm guessing kind of mushroom folk. And then we get to important locations. Yeah, if you want me to back up and read something in more detail, I will, but I'm just trying to kind of get the broad brushstrokes so we can get into kind of the deets, the details of the hexes. Since that's my main point of interest. But I think the thing to note is we're given at least a few different factions. We definitely have the human faction. We have this Fey faction. The pigmen, they're seem to be kind of on the side neutral, and then the myconids seems to be some kind of underground network of nerve-like connections. So the myconids are all the basically fungi seem to be kind of connected together. Perkins says the overview works for them. Great. On to important locations. We already talked about Crimson Wall, which is the largest settlement and the home of the Duke. We have Green Hill. It's located near the forest edge, 2 days from Crimson Wall. Barrow Stream is a fortified town by the Dew River, northwest of the Ashen Citadel. Let's see, and then we have the Ashen Citadel. It's a castle located in a large open area deep in the misty forest. It's the only place to rest in between the Acorns Pass and the Barrow Pass. Brian Smith says Crimson Wall, not Red Wall with mice and stoats. Correct. This is the Crimson Wall. Don't besmirch their name with those other creatures. I'm just trying to see here. So Crimson Wall is down here at the southern end of the map. There's the Barrow Stream. There's the Barrow Pass. There's the Ashen Citadel. So this is the Ashen Citadel. What did it say? Large open area. It's not really in the center of it, at least not by... I guess it's in the center of that hex, but not in the center of the actual area. So we have let's see, between the Acorns Pass. Where's the Acorns Pass? I don't know. I wish these, I could probably zoom in more. I feel like this is a little bit hard to read. The map itself is pretty, and I dig it. But I think they could have made these pop just a little bit more. I mean, it's not a huge deal, but all right. The forest is definitely something of danger. I like that they've given parts of, hey, if you want to rest, you need to get to that citadel. Maybe it's between area 10 and... I'm not sure. Anyhow. Cool. Brian Smith asks, is this actually an anthropomorphic animal setting? No, Brian Smith is not. There are pigmen, but no, it's humans, some sort of fey, elf-ish race, species, pigmen, and then the United Federation of Fungi. Or at least those are the main factions, I should say. It's not necessarily that's all will be here. So we also have Brown Bog, Grutkak. That probably sounds Grutkak. That's probably better. Forget that first one. Grutkak. Grayshroom Town. So this is where you can hang out with some myconids, and then the Jade Palace, which is where the Dewborn princes are hanging out. I'm just curious. Just want to go back. Where's the Jade Palace? Does it say? Can I see? There's Brown Bog, Crimson Wall. Where's the Jade Palace? Can't see it. Maybe it is unknown. I don't know. It's somewhere. It's somewhere hidden away. Okay. Now let's get on to some stuff. Ryan Smith says, oh, okay, the Acorn Pass title made me think it was like Small Folk. No, I think it's just the name of a pass. It's a cool name, actually. I find that a lot of the names that sound cool just are very simple. Weathertop. I was watching the end of the season of House of the Dragon, and there's River Run in these places, and it's just Rivendell. And they're just great names, but really when you break it down, they just took kind of what the place is geographically and maybe used, it's a valley, it's like a crack in the valley. Well, it's Riven. Oh, okay. And it's a dell, so we'll call it Rivendell. I mean, it's just great stuff. So we've got, Brown Bog, Jade Palace, Good Cack, Grayshroom Town. Now onto the travel procedure. Now we're cooking. Adventures in the Brukesian Duchy are likely to begin in the capital, Crimson Wall. From there, adventurers may have plenty of reasons to visit the Misty Forests or other settlements north. This section outlines an independent and self-contained travel system. We shall see about that. Mr. Guy. About notation. Some events or things described in this document have different odds of happening. Okay, 1 in 6, 3 in 6, so on. Fine. We'll get that. Travel phases. Each day of adventuring in the wild is divided into 3 phases of 8 hours roughly. Depending on the party's actions, the phases may last more or less as desired, but each day has only 3, morning, evening, and night. Each of these phases resolves as follows. You declare actions, there might be random events, and then we have a result. We have a little table here for weather. It's simple, but easy to use. It's just a 2d6 with basically clear and clearing and overcast are the most common. And then, but it goes from hot to clear to clearing to overcast to light rain to rain and then snow. I might do it. I wonder if it's just, is that just where it is, or because I imagine in summer you're probably not going to get snow. I kind of like when they're a little bit, again, it's not here or there, just use something like light precipitation, heavy precipitation, and then I can just adjust it for rain, snow, some kind of wintry mix, blah, blah, blah. Now we have the actions we have. We have camping. So the party looks for a place to camp and sleep, and includes kind of finding fire or water, firewood, building campfires, setting up tents. So basically the whole thing is we're just abstracting it all into this general camp action. There is a 1 in 6 chance of suffering a mishap when setting up camp. The chance increases by 1 in 6 in the forest, by a further 1 in 6 during the rain, and by 2 in 6 during a storm. So if you're in the forest, it's storming. That would be basically a 1, 2, 4 in 6 chance a mishap would happen. The presence of a guide or someone knowledgeable in traversing forest biomes, like druids or woodsmen, decreases their chance of getting lost by 1 in 6. Then you roll on the camp mishaps table. And the mishaps range from dead fire to accidentally camping on top of an anthill to finding a poor location to getting a massive rain to the water being tainted to the food being ruined to a out of control fire to losing or forgetting gear to animals to lice to swarms of bugs or a cave-in. I think some of these you're going to want to. So given the kind of cave-in, so we don't want to avoid being a gotcha, you probably want to roll that sort of as they're setting up camp. That way you can narrate that they're in a shallow cave. And not that they feel like they're somewhere in the clear, then suddenly you say cave-in. And you're going, what? I thought we were out just in the woods. No, you were in a cave, gentlemen. Explore. This is another further action. The party searches the current hex for main features and interesting locations. They have a 4 in 6 chance of finding a place of interest in the hex. The party may try again in a different phase in case of failure. Detailed locations might include a random exploration table as a result of failure. These important locations are to be defined by the DM. Some of them will be released as future supplements of this hex crawling series. Well, there you go. We could forage. 1 in 6 chance of finding edible roots, fruit, vegetables, or mushrooms. You can increase those chances by having somebody who knows about that stuff with you. Success gives you enough food for the day. You can also hunt or fish. 1 in 6 chance, which you can again be improved. You can interact, which is, you're not going to do this as an abstract thing, but basically this would take up one of your spots, right? So you're going to spend the next 8 hours or whatever, interacting, doing stuff in the location, traveling. So the Brukesian Duchy uses 6 mile hexes. The party moves up to 3 hexes while traveling. Movement is reduced to 2 hexes in the forest or swamp. Movement is reduced to 1 hex in the mountainous terrain. On roads marked on the map, the party may move an extra hex. And then we can apply, as a GM, we can apply other bonuses or penalties, however we'd like. And we also have a getting lost. If you're off-road, it's a 2 in 6 chance of getting lost. Within the depths of the forest, it goes up to 3 in 6. The guide can drop that back down. And then additionally, for mishaps, there's a 1 in 6 chance of suffering a mishap when traveling off-road. This increases during rain, and even more if it's during a storm. And then we have a travel mishaps table. Oops, I bonk my mic. I'm not going to read all these. Could be deep mist, sprained ankle, More mist, could be lost. Maybe wild animals, curious animals, more bugs. Could be a quicksand or bog. Those are nice. I like that. And then we get some random events. They use a D10 roll. How often do they roll? A random event may occur once per day, right? Okay, so once per day, you're going to roll for random events. 10% chance there's no event at all. What is that? 20% chance that it's some kind of area effect. We'll have to see what that means. Another 20% chance of a creature encounter. Another 20% chance of an NPC encounter. And then another 10% chance of a creature and NPC encounter. Let's see. For Perkins asks, so we're checking 2 to 3 1d6 checks per day. It depends what it is for. I think it depends on the actions. So you get, in a game, oops, let me go. In a day, we have 3 phases. Each of the phase, actions, random events, results. And random events is here. Let's see. Though there's a little bit of a kind of conflict here because it says each of the phases. So it would seem like you're doing 3 because you have morning, evening, and night. Each one of those you declare actions, random events, and then do the results. So that would seem to suggest that you're rolling 3 times for random events. When we come to random events says a random event may occur once per day. Maybe they're saying that you can only get one of these once per day. I don't know. There's a little bit of a maybe not super clear because if I read this, it seems like I would roll this once a day. Which, given that there's a much greater chance of something happening than something not happening. I mean, there's only a 10% chance that just nothing happens at all. That already seems like there's a good percent chance that you're going to get something happening. I mean, look at these odds. Actually, it's not. This is actually, I said 20%. This is actually 30% of a creature encounter, 20% or 30% of an NPC encounter. There's really 60% chance, 70% chance that something's happening. Perkins says the random events are independent of group actions. Well, they are independent, but you're supposed to be rolling that. Basically, if we're taking this travel phase, it's the morning. Party declares their actions. I roll for random events. Then we do the result. Let's see. During the phase, then the next phase we'd repeat. The one thing I think they said was you don't get random events if you're resting. So I guess if they're resting like they're sleeping, you don't get a random. I'm not sure. I feel like maybe I'm missing something or something's a little bit missing. I don't know, but the cadence from this seems to suggest that you're more likely going to get something happening. So the area effects are what? So the kind of area effects kind of stuff, just to put that in perspective, could be a trap set by Dewborn hunters that has not been triggered. Could be an abandoned camp, an empty animal nest, some dead animals, some kind of terrain danger, an animal nest that's got some babies in it, a pollen cloud. Oh, that's creepy. Sudden thunderstorm. So a lot of these are not particularly harmful. They're more atmospheric. Maybe that's I guess maybe that kind of fits in sort of the area effect. It's just kind of in the area. I think it's more kind of atmosphere. It's sort of they give you sort of almost like little hooks to lead to other things. Like, ooh, now you've encountered this animal nest. Well, what do you do? Sort of thing, right? It's sort of like an invitation to an encounter, or not, or just atmospherics. For example, 1d6 dead animals, or 1d6 dead Brukesian townfolk killed by some random creature. But more often than not, we're gonna get one of these either creature encounters, NPC encounters, or both combined. So I think how often you roll makes a big difference. I kind of feel like the once per day seems, because the odds are so high you're gonna get something. I feel like that seems more likely to me, but it could be the other thing is that it may be just that this setting is saying to us that there's a lot of stuff going on. The density of life is a lot. So you're moving through it. It's not a lot of empty forest. It's there's all kinds of stuff going on. That could be just what they mean. And so we just got to roll with it. Or, change it to suit. So as far as NPCs you might encounter, these could be just felt travelers, merchant caravans, these kind of dewborn rangers, these sort of elven types, some pixies, some dwarves, an elven merchant, some lost members of the itinerant parade that are become unresponsive. Those folks that have that mental illness thing. Some myconids, some hunters, traveling group, some pigmen loggers or pigmen hunters. So the NPC encounters at least are mostly friendly. And then creatures, could be some giant toads, forest wolves, brown bears, forest lions, blight horrors, ogres, hunters, snatchers. Ooh, I like that. These are ones, I guess, out for their 2 in 6 chance that they got 4 human prisoners. Ouch. A lonely hill giant, some giant boars, some vicious myconids, or a green dragon. 5 in 6 chance they're flying. And then what happens if you get both? I guess if you just get both, you would just roll both, put it together. There you go. And now we get our first of these looks of a specific hex. How do you feel about this this hex view? So you get the hex that they're in, which is, I'm guessing, the center one. It's that crimson wall. They give us the surrounding hexes, which I think is nice because it gives us some context for it. We get the direction. This, I guess, is leaving the general area, right? Because going back here, crimson wall is at the very southern end of this map for the Brukesian Duchy. So we know, generally speaking, this is moving off the map and everything else go. In terms of the description we get, Crimson Wall area, the duchy's capital, Crimson Wall, is visible from anywhere in the area in the hex. The region is a mixture of fertile farmlands, rolling hills, riverlands, and the urban backdrop of Crimson Wall. This is the safest region in the duchy thanks to the constant patrols of the Crimson Watch and the coming and going of travelers and merchants. Fishing ships, barges, and even larger vessels are a common sight on the Dew River. The forested horizon in the north is an ever-present reminder of the constant struggle with the Dewborn. Nice, we got some nice little flavor. It's a nice little summary. Gives us pretty much everything we need to know. It's safe. Yeah, I got river traffic. This is, I guess they say, to the north. So this is not the forest. We can't actually see it to the north, but we can see it here. So you got roads. Okay, great. We have a D6 failed exploration results. I'm not sure. Why would we want to? What is, so is this taking the exploration action? It's not an explore hex. Okay, so I guess if you explore and fail, you find a lost backpack with a map, you find treasure buried by pigmen, a secret cove by the Dew River, an abandoned campsite, petrified tree, or a secret tunnel. Why would that be on failed exploration? I feel like those are these are successful explorations. I'm not sure. I don't know why I do wish a little bit we knew when we're supposed to do it. So I guess if you're in this hex, you take the exploration action. If you fail, this is what you find. But let me just read back on explore. Finding a place of interest. Yeah, that's, but if you're in the Crimson Wall hex, I'm guessing Crimson Wall itself is the place of interest, which seems to be impossible to miss. I don't know. Maybe that one will make more sense in other hexes that are kind of pure wilderness hexes, because that seems like a weird. I like the fact that you're finding stuff. This seems like stuff you'd find if you succeeded, not if you failed. I mean, I kind of feel like, do I want to fail to get some of these results? And then if I succeed, the GM just say, yeah, there's Crimson Wall. That's the point of interest here is that massive city that's staring you straight in the face. Crimson Wall. But then you're thinking, well, I knew that. I wanted to find something else. We do have some of these area effects for you roll 1 through 6 in the 1 through 6 is just for the wilderness, and then 7 through 12, I guess, is for inside the city. All right. We get some random events. Have they changed? I don't think they've changed the No encounter. I think it's about the same. The random events. I do appreciate though that they can potentially. So you have this general. Whoops. These general ones here. There's general stuff, random events, and then you can kind of override them in specific hexes. So I do like that kind of layout. Like, hey, here's the generic one. If we don't, you're somewhere and you don't have one of these, or we don't give you one, that means use the generic one. But then we can also, if we want to highlight the differences between this particular area and the generic areas in the Brukesian Duchy. We can also override that with the stuff here. I do like that. All right, I'm going to breeze through the details of Crimson Wall, not because I don't think it's good, but just because I want to see more kind of hex stuff, wildernessy stuff. But we could see kind of this kind of stuff they give us. For this is the main town. So this is the main settlement that we're going to be, if not totally headquartered in all the time, where the party's going to at least start out and potentially spend a lot of their time. So I think it's good this detail. We have some details about the walls, the nobles, the law. Features, got about 14,000 people. We have an ethnic distribution. It's mostly human with just a dash of elves, dwarves, halflings, and some that are mixed. Religion is the grand solar creator religion. Government is the head of the duchy. Got something about the weather. Oh, we've got are these neighborhoods? The Roaring Griffin. Nope, it's just the name of the inn. I like this layout. So it's not giving us box text for this, but it's giving us basically the bold is kind of stuff that we should obviously take away. So a well-traveled dirt road leads to a 2-story wooden building that's packed with clientele. And then just, I don't know if this would not necessarily be a descriptor off the bat, but service is slow. Is in a tavern, and the innkeeper's name is Griff. We have a trading house, a hunting club, some perfumery, some barracks, cax, blacksmithing, suits and clothing, an opera house, a market, and was that fencing? I guess that's for fencing, as in fencing goods. Yeah, illicit sales. A library, another. What is this? This is another inn. I kind of wish they would mark those out because it says the Do Still Maggot, and you don't get that it's an inn until over here. Just put that something up here. Maybe it's obvious, but I just think, or just call it the Do Still Maggot Tavern Inn. I don't know. Use a symbol. Hargan's Imports, Wet Shore Adventuring. So that's it. So that's a nice. I feel like this is a nice. Oh wait, do we get a city map? That's good with the river coming through. I feel like this is a pretty nice. I'm not sure what else I would want to get. I mean, I'm not getting stats for the NPCs, but I don't think I need them. I mean, I guess depending on my group, maybe I need them, and then I'll just roll them up. But I think it keeps it concise. I think we have everything that I have everything that I want, which is I don't even really need the map. I really just like. Whoops, I'm going the wrong way. The fact that we get a kind of sense of how big it is. We get a sense of who's in there. The religious thing I think can be kind of important. We got government. We don't really need it necessarily, but weather, fine. We know that we've got a tavern. We know basically what the amenities are, services in Crimson Wall. Maybe I'd like a little bit more. Is there anything I'd like? I think that maybe the one thing I'd like a little bit more of is something about the people. What is the culture of Crimson Wall? We know what the government is. We know what the religion is. We know they're mostly human. How they feel about each other, themselves, being around here. Are they haughty? Are they closed-lipped? Are they very talkative? Is there a lot of drinking? Some of those things. Because if I'm role-playing the party showing up in Crimson Wall, what sets the populace of Crimson Wall apart? What makes a Crimson Wallian? What are they proud of? What are they trying to hide? What is their shame? What is the shame of Crimson Wall? What is their pride and joy of Crimson Wall? That kind of thing might be helpful. Other than that, I think it's giving me everything that I want. The next area we have here is Satire's Glades. I think the one thing now, so it was obvious where Crimson Wall was, but I'm just going to back up to this map here. Where is Satire's Glades? That's 1. Where's 2? 2 is right here. So we've gone, so they're not detailing every single hex. We had Crimson Wall here, then we have 1, and I think I would have liked, Maybe if I zoomed in, it would be better, but I would have liked maybe those hex outlines to be a bit more bold, and or maybe either just dial the colors back a little bit so that the white, or make the white of the hexes kind of pops out a little bit more, or thicken those lines or make them a little so they kind of pop out a bit more. So we have let's see, 1, 2, 3, basically 3, 4 hexes away is number 2, Satire's Glade. There we go. On the right way. Perkins says, yeah, old school publications would have NPC stat blocks and a text block not ready for gameplay. Useful for slower game when the GM can get to the next scene ready during play. Yeah, it helps sometimes. This looks streamlined and allows for faster play at the table, perhaps. Yeah, I mean, like everything, it's just a choice that people have to make. We only have so much time. We only have so much space. Can't work on something forever. So you have to just make those choices in terms of, I can give you box text, which is now not really in vogue. A lot of folks are kind of like, I don't want box text. Give me like stuff. Give me things that I can weave into my own box text, which is fine, but it doesn't mean that you have to kind of read it and then speak it, which I think works better for some people than others. It's just a play style, how you prefer to GM. And then things like the stat blocks for NPCs, they're really easy to roll up, but they're also really easy to provide. But it's just a speed thing. Maybe in the back of the book they'll have some. I don't know. Maybe it's just, we're gonna keep it tight, keep it moving. And if you need stat blocks because your party's murder hoboing their way through Crimson Wall, then we can grab it later, or we can generate it when we need it. I don't know what happened to my voice just now. Okay, so Satire's Glades to the, what do we say? It was to the east of Crimson Wall. 2 friendly tribes of Satires inhabit this section of the Misty Forest, midway from Crimson Wall to Green Hill. They live less than a day from the forest edge. Is this not the forest? Oh, okay. I think they mean, and okay, I think, okay. I think they're inside the forest, less than a day from the edge of the forest. So they're in the forest, close to the edge. The Satires live from the land, hunting and foraging in the fertile woods. Satires gather in the verdant glades to drink and sing fae songs long forgotten in the human world. The Dewborn are neutral to the Satires and allow them to live in the region unhindered. The Satires respect the Dewborn and consider them their superiors despite the apparent indifference. All right. Now, I guess, okay, I'm trying to think about this D6 failed exploration results table is bugging me, but I think I've figured it out. I believe that the idea here is that we as the GM are supposed to put our own point of interest in this area. They're not doing it for us. They're saying, do it. I believe that's what they said if we go back to explore. These important locations are to be determined by the GM. So we're looking for something. A point of interest. I think the thing that's confusing me is I would have thought that these glades are the thing of interest. No, you found these glades where centaurs are singing songs to whatever. Like I feel like to me, I'm going, oh, that's the point of interest. But I think that there's something additionally that we, as we're preparing this for our own games, are supposed to insert into this area. So we would use some table or our own imagination somewhere and say, okay, there's a weird tower out here. And we would decide, I think what I would want to, given the context here of the Satires Glades, I would want to determine what the relationship between the Satires and this thing is. Okay, blah, blah, I've done that. And now the party could try to find this thing. And then if they fail, they might find these other things instead. And then maybe for example, back in Crimson Wall, you have a torn backpack with a map in it. Maybe the map is a clue that can then lead them further on this exploration. Oh, they're trying to find this thing. Well, you didn't find it, but you found a backpack with a torn map, and the map seems to be leading towards something. Okay, now we can try to follow that trail. Maybe that's what I think that's what the intention is with that. I think they could have probably spelled it out, make it a bit more clear. Hey, this is BYOPOI, which we get. Bring your own point of interest. That part, I think they did mention. I would almost bold it and make a bigger note out of it because it's a little bit easy to miss. And then think, okay, in each section, we're not going to tell you what your point of interest is because you're bringing that yourself. we are going to kind of give you some things that you could find to miss. Now, these things, these failed exploration results are kind of generic enough, I think. Well, actually, this one's not because it actually has some satire stuff, so maybe it's good. But I almost wonder it would have been better served as having a larger table of just generic failed exploration results, and then kind of giving a little hint about how this exploration result could lead further that exploration they're doing looking for the thing. So in this case, we have, say, number one is a torn backpack with a letter. The letter then is a reference to this thing that we're sticking in there. Bundle of rotten food doesn't help. An empty cave with a skeleton. Maybe there's something on the skeleton that might help, but maybe not. An abandoned satire campsite might not. I'm not sure. Probably you'd have to invent some reason to connect it. A tree split by a huge dented bite is nothing really in terms of finding the point, and then a tunnel network that descends into the depths of the earth. So I guess it's kind of a mixed bag of things that could be used to find our point of interest. But I think that's what it is, because it's been just I've been reading this and it's just kind of bugging me that the way they have that set up just maybe not as clear. But I think I get it now. Now I could have it completely wrong. This is why you should probably spell it out a little bit better. But that's my thinking. We do get some area effects. We get some random events. We have some NPCs we can run into and some creatures. Gravely injured Dewborn Ranger. He offers a jade necklace in exchange for help. Oh, and here we have an area of interest, flooded Dewborn Temple. So this does have an area of interest in it. Okay. Oh, all right. Let me go back. Did I miss that in Crimson Wall? Oh, there it is. This one doesn't make any sense. The area of interest is Crimson Wall. Okay, so I missed that. I don't know how I missed that before, but I missed it. But that still doesn't make any sense to me, because you didn't. I think the whole point of Crimson Wall, as it says, is visible from anywhere in the area. So you don't really need to take an exploration action to find Crimson Wall. It's right there. So this one is the area of interest is this flooded Dewborn Temple. And, folks watching, unfortunately, this one's got, maybe I should move myself around somewhere else here. I'll put myself down here, and you can see, sorry, it's underneath me here. There's the area of interest. All right. Frederick Work says, this plus Barrowkeep Den of Spies might make a very good game. Not familiar with that one, Frederick. Is yet again, you've brought something to my attention I was unaware of. Okay, so things are making a bit more sense. I don't know. I'm kind of wish they would put these together to make it easier to connect. I do like the color scheme, though. They do relate through the color scheme, but I just totally missed that. And here we get the flooded Dewborn Temple. This is a forgotten ruin that hides in the depths of the Satire Glades. The Satires know of it, but never come near it. An old song can be heard from the entrance from time to time, a song of pain, death, and despair. The Satires do not understand the lyrics, but are empathically receptive to its message. The Dewborn built the bygone temple aeons ago and abandoned it when it flooded. An evil harpy lives there now. So you get a little dungeon. Look at that. I'm not going to read through the dungeon, but it's just cool that we get it. Same style, giving us some descriptors that are bolded with looks like more details in parenthetically. But very nice. Now we get to some pigmen territory. Now we're seeing kind of how the hexes are lined up. It's we're getting the hex. We see the surrounding hexes. I think just visually it would have been nice to have some arrows just so I can see it. Oh, this is 2 days or 2 hexes away from Crimson Walls that away. I know that the one thing is that this is one of those cases in which it's going to be in game. This is a lot different than reading it now, because I got to keep flipping back and forth through the map and trying to relate. Oh, where the pigmen are related to what we've already read. Maybe following the numbering, assuming they're starting at the bottom and kind of, going kind of column and row with the hexes and the numbering. If I was playing the game, I would just be using that map and then seeing, oh, they've gone to 3 and then flipping around, right? So it's a little bit more confusing. That said, it's a little confusing because of the way we're reading through it, which is back to front like a book and not page section by section, kind of in a hex crawling sense. It still would be nice if there was something that, Crimson Wall this way, some kind of points. There's some points around there. just to help place it on the map. Because what we don't have that a lot of, or I would say a lot, some hexcrawl resources do is they'll have all the hexes being numbered. Here we don't have that, so we're relying on just the numbering of these points of interest or areas of interest, I guess, and then finding the one that fits. So we have Pigmen territories that has an abandoned tower in it. Same kind of setup. The abandoned towers is another little mini dungeon. Nice. So we've got a small but still 1, 2, 3, 4 level watchtower to check out. Perkins says numbering hex maps doesn't look so nice in a book. However, having a number hex map makes it easy to navigate during play. Yeah, it does. I agree with you. It can be a little bit busy. You have a lot of stuff on a hex map already, and then you have all these little numbers everywhere. There's probably some ways to do it, like maybe you number the tops and the sides, and though of course that means you have to do a little not triangulation, but you have to line them up to find out where you are. It's just kind of whatever, it's another play style thing. I think maybe having both. I think if I had my druthers, I would say, could I have both? Could I have it on one side of a page, have the one with just the kind of points of interest, and maybe the other side of the page having the numbers, and then maybe have some kind of cross indexing between them? I'm not sure because I do agree that I think that oftentimes looking at the map, it can be really busy and the numbers don't help. But on the other hand, having that real specificity of the numbering, I think like that can be really helpful when you're trying to find out where you are, where your party is. Because in this one, when you're moving between two of these points, it can be a little bit vague. I mean, you're just going to have to mark it up. Use the PDF version to print out a picture. Use their raw. They have in the package you get if you download this and it's on drive-through, you get Roll20 maps. So you could do some kind of circles and put it on your favorite whiteboard or in Photoshop or GIMP or something, and you could make a layer and write notes and stuff on it. But if they had the numbers, it'd be much easier to say, okay, we ended today and they're in 70,23. Bam, as opposed to having to fiddle faddle a bunch. Yeah, Frederick says a numbered hex map makes it easier to keep notes. Yeah, I would agree with that. Not a huge deal though. I mean, you can always number it yourself. That's another thing. Once you get the map image, yeah, it's a little bit of extra work, but can be done. So we get some 4 levels of an abandoned watchtower. Now we get to the eastern part of the Green Bog. Green Bog is a large wetlands region surrounded by the misty forest. The bog is home to dangerous predators and a great variety of poisonous plants and mushrooms. A narrow, uneven path crosses the wetlands from north to south. It connects Crimson Wall, Brown Bog, and Harrison. The journey is so difficult that only the bravest dare traversing it. Travelers are often better off getting on a barge to sail the Dew River down to Crimson Wall. Where is the path? Is that it? So here we have, so this is the actual hex, though. It looks like the path, is that the red dashed line, the path? No, here's the road. I'm not sure. Or maybe the road, I don't know. What's this? I guess the dot is just for where we are, because I don't think there's a settlement here. Oh, there is. It's the Brown Bog. Never mind. So so in here, we're in this bog area. Area of interest here is Brown Bog, the town. You really want to stay on the road, I guess. Interestingly enough, the random encounters, they haven't changed the there's not more random encounters than normal, or is there? Let's see, 4. No, I think it's still 30% chance of a creature encounter. I don't think they've changed the odds. Maybe a little missed opportunity. Have said, oh, this is more dangerous, so I would maybe up the creature and NPC encounter and up the creature encounter numbers to kind of reflect that it being more dangerous. But maybe it's just the maybe the dangers in the type of encounters we're getting and not in the chance. Frederick says they once in a group go back several hexes. They didn't bury the bodies they'd originally killed there, so the hex was full of predators. Yep, predators, scavengers. All right, so the creatures here: crocodiles, poisonous toads, snakes, some afflicted myconids, blight horrors, ogres, some dewborn, various types, pigmen, swarms of wasps. What's a darkling snatcher? I don't know. And a black dragon. Cool. And then the area of interest is Brown Bog, the town. I'm guessing you probably wouldn't need to explore for it if you managed to stay on the road all the way to Brown Bog. And I kind of would have liked, since this is actually the town, label it here so we can just know it's the town. Because other than that, reading around, you got to kind of read around. It's not obvious that it connects Brown Bog, and it's like, oh, all the way down in this corner, oh, it's Brown Bog's the adventure. So just write it up there. Now we get to the town of Brown Bog. Another nice map. We got all the stuff we want. Excellent, excellent. Vertifort's surroundings. There's an ancient Dewborn temple here. Military confrontations in the Brukesian Duchy seldom stop. Humans cannot trust Crimsonwall with all the weight of securing the forest borders. Harrison and Barrow Stream, which are surrounded by the woods, have enough to deal with. The Duchy requires outposts in strategic positions to hold the borders. Vertifort is one of the 3 forts north of Crimsonwall. The road north leads to the Misty Pass. To the south, travelers can rest in any of the other 2 forts, Gadrafort or Urdufort, before reaching the capital, Crimsonwall. I'm guessing that here is the fort, Vertifort. So they were in Vertifort's surroundings, or at least one of the surroundings. Now, here's where I'm curious. I was meaning it to before. You know what? I'm wondering now if I've been misinterpreting this. I was thinking before that the hex that we were concerned with was just the center one, and it was giving us these other ones just for reference, for context. But now I'm wondering, is this supposed to represent all of them? No, I guess it can't, because there aren't Dewborn temples in all of these. So I guess it must be the center one still, I think. I'm going to say yes, but that is what it is. So Vertifort is here. This is one of the surroundings. I suppose you could use this for all the surroundings except for that area of interest. And let's see, sorry, Ancient Dewborn Temple. And is that this? I don't think that's the same place. The forests of the Brukesian Duchy are so vast, the humans haven't been able to explore them all. Some of the deepest parts of the woods remain uncharted. Dangerous secret locations undiscovered by men. Magical Dewborn Temple lies hidden in the forest. Dewborn seldom comes here anymore because of its proximity to Vertifort. However, the abandoned place has a peculiar new dweller. Okay, so this is, see, here's the thing here. Don't call it Ancient Dewborn Temple. Then I turn the page and it's called A Satire's Lost Ballad. And I have to read through all there. And then, oh, okay, it is this. Just call this Area of Interest, A Satire's Lost Ballad. And then, I mean, I guess they're doing this because they want this to be, it's like maybe it's a little bit mini adventure. They want to give it a little bit different thing than just something generic, but it just means it just adds a little bit of confusion that I don't need. I mean, granted, they're next to each other page-wise, but given how this book is normally going to be used, with you're not going page by page like I am, but you're kind of flip-flopping between areas, just make the names match up. Why cause someone more confusion than they need? Brian Smith asks, what's a Dewborn? Jack Cole says, someone born to drink Mountain Dew, aka diabetics. Brian Smith, Dewborn are their version of these kind of, I don't want to say their version of, because I think they mentioned that there's some kind of elven or related to elves. So there's some kind of fey, elvish folk, but they're sort of taller, thinner, I think, than elves. So they're basically a local elf culture population. So this is cool. I really like these. They're really giving you a lot of different things here. I'm impressed by the amount of stuff. I'm curious where. So if folks you're looking at this and maybe you looked at, say, Mike's World and some of those other, these different, I guess different really versions, or versions, not the right word, different types of hexcrawl supplements. Something like Mike's World gives you a lot of, but very just in brief hexes with there's some kind of stuff going on, but a lot of it in terms of the content, you're expected, I think, to do more of the heavy lifting with Mike's World. So I think they're maybe covering a larger area, but you're getting very just kind of blurb information, maybe with a little bit more in places details, but not a ton. Here, you're getting a ton of detail in terms of places, these areas of interest, and then the what those areas of interest are, including maps. You're not getting any stats. They're not giving you, oh, you know what? I was saying before, like, why not give statistics for people? But then again, I think part of this was it's supposed to be system agnostic. So I think part of their system agnosticism is they're staying away from doing any kind of stat blocks because they have not chosen a system. This isn't OSE or something else or Black Hack or whatever. It's just generic, totally system agnostic. So I think that's why they left off all the stats, which makes sense. Whereas I think maybe Mike's rule will have more stat blocks. It's more specific in that way, but you're not getting as much information. Layout wise, I think this is very well put together. Looks really nice. I've there's maybe a couple of typos I've spotted, but nothing egregious. I think I wish there was a little bit more exploration for things. As you can see, my approach when reading these is I'm generally just reading it kind of a first timer. So I sometimes fall prey to not seeing anything, like missing for the first couple that, oh, there's this area of interest thing here, as I'm trying to rack my brain as to why they have a failure without what the success is. I still don't think that Crimson Wall one makes sense. And I would have chosen to put some other kind of thing of interest in there because Crimson Wall just seems to be way too obvious when the first thing, these areas of interest should be things that you need to take the explore action to find. In Crimson Wall, they make clear you don't need to find it. It's right in front of your face. It's massive. It's like when they come across into the open fields and in the Wizard of Oz and they see the city of Oz. So you don't need to do an action to find it. It's blinding you. It's right in your face kind of thing. But you get a really good information. I really like all the tables. I do think that I wish that I don't really see much, and maybe I'm not paying attention close enough. I'm not sure I see as much variety in some of the random events kind of things. And some of these is maybe I think they could have done to tweak them a bit more. They seem to be all kind of the same. And I think that that's maybe an opportunity. They could have taken different areas and really played around with the encounter chances, and maybe they do further on. But I definitely like it in principle, and I like these. I haven't read them for everyone because I'm trying to get a nice view of all the different parts of the book. But I really like these. At this area effect, I don't love that title for it. I'm kind of thinking what would be more appropriate, but just these sort of things that are happening in the area. Obviously, you have creature and NPC encounters for each of these hex areas, which I think is really great. Nice artwork. It's just the cartography is nice. Things are pretty. I mean, I think I have a couple of things I might want to tweak. That the map that's kind of in the front, but there's also you get individual map files and things too, and which I didn't download, but you could always use that as well to help move things around. Like in this one, I would have liked to have some. This is where numbers or something could kind of help. Or again, I would have liked even like Crimson Wall is this many hexes or this way, and just something to just give me some orientation, so I can maybe place things a little bit more in my mental map. But I think during play, I'm more than likely to know where they are on the map, and that's why I know I'm here. Whereas once I'm reading it front to back, as I'm reading it, I'd like to have that more, that context more, if that makes sense. But there's no reason in kind of just to not just give me a little bit. You could fit. They have the space. It's not like it would have taken a bunch of time, and it would help people who are reading it my way, and also help with people who are reading it. It doesn't hurt if you have that kind of information in the more for being the game. Perkins says that being consistent with each table page is good. This is true. I do. Ryan Smith says, got it. Dewborn, code red is when they go to war. Pretty much. We had an Abyss of Spiritual Ascension. Micah did Rotting Grounds. See, like here's something, just, this group of hexes, and then you come to this group, and they're not exactly the same, but I'm guessing we're going to get a lot of these where they kind of look the same. So I think we're having some extra bits to just help orient things is good, especially if I can imagine some folks as they're playing might bookmark or mark and say, oh, I'm at this page. And then maybe you flip here and you're like, okay, but where are we headed? Where is this on the overall map again? And I know it's got like, oh, number 7, but then sometimes it's Anyway, I would have just liked a little bit more. I think it works. I think it just maybe there's something where you can just take it up a slight notch, take it up a little notch. Oh, rum and dew is a pirate. That's true. Dewborn rumborn the pirates. Just want to see if there's anything just to tag through here. Ooh, Green Hill. Look at all that lovely farmland in there. And I think having these settlements, I think, is great. I don't really need the maps, but they're pretty, and some folk like them, and they don't take anything away. I just don't find myself using them very much, but they're certainly nice. I like all the information you get in the different things. I think the only thing, like I said, is I wouldn't mind is having a little bit more on the culture of the place. What are these people like? So here we're in Green Hill. What do the Green Hill people think of the rest of the duchy? What do they think of the Crimson Wall? What do they think of whomever? That kind of stuff would be kind of nice, I think. I noticed this one, they didn't give us populations. Doesn't seem like, which would have been good. But we do get some town history, something about their pioneers. They have some Myconid influence. We have a sword vault. That sounds cool. The Nymph's Font, another location. Get the Pixie Grounds, the Prison of Petals. Ooh, I like it. I kind of want to see what the ooh, there's Barrow Stream, also nice. What does where is the Jade Palace? Here we go. A Jade Palace? The Dewborn are bow-wielding savages. Pigs shall fly before that happening. I don't know what he means by that, but that was written by or spoke by Duke Albert Crane. Nothing but a myth. The words pronounced by Duke Crane when his army's commanding officer insisted that finding the Jade Palace was paramount for the Brukesian Duchy's advances. Regardless of what humans think, the palace exists. The Dewborn princes inhabit the marvelous structure and rule over their people from its magically hidden location. Loyal allies and important Dewborn live in the palace as well. So there you go. The Dewborn came to the material plane 2,000 years ago. A war that threatened to destroy their society drove them to open a portal between worlds and leave their home in the Fey realm. The now forgotten Dewborn zealots that maintained the portal open, I think kept the portal open or maintained the portal and allowed their kin to go through. The Dewborn came to the now called Brukesian Duchy, or Brukesian Duchy, and settled in the woods. Originally from the Fey realm, they quickly became acquainted with satyrs, pixies, dryads, and other creatures from the forest. They formed alliances. Some of them work as spies to the Dewborn to this day. The Jade Palace was built during the first decades after their arrival. The material plane has different arcane properties as the Fey realm, the material than the Fey realm, but they did their best to reproduce their might and grandioseness. They did not fail. The palace is an architectural marvel. Furthermore, the dreamlike landscape grounds around the palace are marvelous. So there you've got it, and it's just hidden by spell and perhaps glamour and illusion. Let's see. So we got some stuff about the spell, the people, the Dewborn themselves, the Lost Prince. We get some random encounters, random events. We got a kind of a map of the Jade Palace. General features, the 7 Dewborn princes. Cool. It's actually quite not as much info as I was thinking there would be on the Jade Palace, but still, it's cool. I mean, it's an interesting idea. I like it that it's a little bit different than your run-of-the-mill elves. They can exist parallel to the elves. I don't think there's anything. They didn't suggest these are the only elves in the setting. There's like, this is a particular variety of elven kind of fey creature. And that they're specific to this area. This is a specific culture of elves that 2,000 years ago left the Fey realm and relocated permanently to the Dew Valley, hence Dewborn. I'm digging it. The forest core. Only the great tree can grant you life, but don't dabble with death. It may just bring you sorrow. Those are the famous words of the Pixie Pilgrim. Perkins says, flying pigfish. I am sure I've seen one, but not actually flying. Yes. Ooh, look at that. Lovely, lovely little, it's almost like a battle map. Centaur Grounds, the Astral Dial. Oh, I like the Astral Dial. Let's see. Thousands of years ago, the elves that inhabited the now called Brukesian Duchy built the astral dial. Their people were an exemplary group of elves. They had the cunning and thirst for knowledge of the high elves and wood elves' deep connection with nature. As a result, their curiosity for the world that surrounded them had no limits. The astral dial is the pinnacle of their long-gone civilization. The complex artifact allowed them to learn about the planes, their movement, and their relation to the astral sea. They deciphered star constellations that hid for centuries. The astral dial was more than a simple tool to satisfy their curiosity. It was a means to reach the next era of their civilization. The key for change. Alas, they're gone, and nobody knows what happened to them. So this is before, I think this must be before the Dewborn. So some other elves built this. That's kind of cool. So you have kind of elf on elf action. Brian Smith says, they must have glowing green Mountain Dew blood. Perkins says, pretty art and maps. Generally, this looks well done. However, I need something more generic. Generic in what way, Perkins? Just less custom. Like what kind of stuff is you need more generic? Do you not? Is it the special elves, the Dewborn and stuff? Is it the societal duchies and organization? Because I mean, mechanically, you can't really get more generic than this. Because there's basically the only mechanics they have is just for the exploration and stuff that's pertains, to the material. Other than that, everything else is absolutely generic mechanically, but there is a setting. There is obviously there's the explicit setting that we're looking at here, the Brukesian Duchies, and of course there's some implicit setting, I should say, of the surrounding areas. Grayshroom Town, Lost Shrine of Valandris, and then that's it. This is really good. This is really good. I mean, I have some quibbles about things. And I wouldn't mind if they spent a little bit of time explaining some stuff that they don't explain. I'd like to know some, and maybe it's clarified somewhere in terms of what those random encounters are supposed to, how often you're supposed to roll those, because I feel like we get a little bit of different messaging depending on what we read. But it is very well done, very well laid out. It's an interesting, I feel like, mini setting. I think what have they done? So they've localized the elements so that you don't have to turn your setting upside down to fit this in. The Dewborn are not some kind of global replacement for elves. They're just a particular number of elves that did a particular thing thousands of years ago, ended up in this particular place, and now do particular stuff, which is great. So you can have your elves everywhere else if you want, and then the Dewborn are just specialists, some sort of, just very special subgroup living here. And they don't have statistics, so you don't have to worry about, I got to convert all their stats. No, because they didn't give you any stats, because we're staying totally generic. So you can take whatever elf stats you want and just use those for the Dewborn, or tweak them as you kind of want to. And the other creatures kind of similar. They don't have to exist elsewhere. They can just exist here. And then you have kind of on top patched, also have a fairly generic human type of civilization. Okay, you got some dukes, blah, blah, blah. There's a kingdom somewhere. They mention it, but that's kind of an easy thing. What do they say here? Okay, the humans came down. Okay, they formed this duchy at some point. Oh, there's a kingdom, and they report to the king, but they send money and stuff, but that's about it. And you could easily, look, they doesn't even mention, we didn't read everything exhaustively, but it doesn't really get mentioned very much, so you could change that to whatever you want and have basically not much standing on everything else going on inside. The duchy is, for all intents and purposes, self-contained. Perkins says, I would need to place this in an existing world. Perhaps I'm looking for something less specific, but it's fine. I need to create a one-page hexcrawl tool to have something really generic. I guess, Perkins, though, I feel like you could place this. I think, let's look at the map again. So that's a good question, or a good element. You need to be able to place this somewhere. We're looking at 6 mile hexes. And you need a place that's got basically 2 sets of mountains and then forest in between. And then this river coming through. I feel like there's a lot of areas you could place this. And, it's one of those things, if you're going to avail yourself of mini, micro, whatever hex crawling setting, at some point you're going to have some terrain you need to fill in. But I think that the elements that they have here, a river, two mountain ranges, or maybe they could be two prongs of the same range. Because we're only talking 6 mile hexes here, so this is, I don't know, 60 miles away. Oh, and there's my camera stopped working. Hold on a second. There we go. Now I'm back. I think that I think, let me say this. Assuming that your setting has some of these elements, I feel like this would be pretty easy to plunk in. I don't know, but obviously I don't know Perkins, I don't know your campaign map. So I can't say for certain, but I kind of think it's pretty generic. There's nothing really peculiar. It's a river. We only have the terrain types is pretty much grass, swamp, river, and some mountains. I don't even know if there are really technically any hills in there, though. Maybe some of these areas are grassy and hills. They've got the kind of, I don't know if those are just supposed to be just little details or whether that's supposed to be elevations. I don't know if they make sense as elevations. In any case, maybe they are. I don't know. Not a whole lot of anything exotic, I would say. So I'm kind of curious because that is something that you have to keep in your account. Where am I gonna put this? And I know that when I've been thinking about trying to with the kind of stuff that I would like to release, I was thinking about that. Like, how am I gonna bound this in a way that makes sense, but that is easy to plunk in somewhere? And I think that this is pretty reasonable. Though maybe you've got all your mountains and things all done, and you don't have anywhere on your continent where you've got this kind of I don't know, foresty, rivery gap. Not sure, but I'd be interested. Perkins, and feel free to answer elsewhere. But I definitely would be curious because I think that is one of the maybe something that's worth doing a whole video about is talking through what do you do when you've grabbed some hex material but you have an existing campaign. Where do you put it? What do you do? Where do you throw it into? Frederick says you can squeeze it into the Midlands easily enough. I think I have Midlands somewhere, but yeah, I should probably look at that too. All right, folks. I'm going to let this one be a stream. So if you could give a thumbs up on your way out, that would be amazing. If you want to, if you found yourself in here and you kind of like this and you're not subscribed to the channel, if you want to subscribe to the channel, that would also be great. Perkins says, I could use this as an alternate world. You're right. How do I incorporate this existing map into existing map that world? Yeah, I think one of the things, and maybe I'll just do a whole thing on this, maybe even tomorrow, I don't know, is I think leaving yourself some flexibility. If there's parts of your world that you've just kind of, because let's say you threw it in a worldographer and you just generated a whole continent and you dropped it in there, but there's stuff that you haven't touched on in your game, no one's talked about it, no one's mentioned it. I almost look at it as this is kind of potential. And then if you see this Brukesian Duchy and you think, oh, I want to put this in, but I've only got the one mountain range, I didn't map out a second one. If it's somewhere that hasn't been talked about, hasn't been mentioned, hasn't come up in gameplay, just add the other mountain range in and just call it a day. I think that too often we trap ourselves with the fact that we generated this whole world and now we're just sticking with it. Gosh darn it, no matter the cost. And if it hasn't come up yet, so there's a mountain range you didn't have before. If there's no impact to anything, you really hadn't gotten that far in your world building. If it has adding it in there will have zero effect on what's going on. Just add it in. Otherwise, we can make some changes. You can always tweak stuff. But yeah, maybe we'll do a whole thing on that because I think that is an interesting quandary for folks. Perkins says breaking something into transportable pieces would be cool. Yeah, it's just that you need an area, right? So like at some point you have a vision. They had this vision for the Brukesian Duchy, and you got to put it in somewhere. So you can kind of break things up to a certain degree. But then if you get too far, then I guess you just go from something like this, which is kind of a setting, to just individual hexes that people can just drop anywhere. And there's definitely a market for that and a thing for that, but it's also very limited because if you can only talk about what's in a specific hex, it just limits you in some of the things that you can do, right? Because you can't count on the hex next door being anything. So you can only have sort of inside sub-hex kinds of features and things, and then it kind of limits you. You can't have mountain ranges because where's the mountain range go once it leaves your hex? You can't. How can you have a river? Because you can't really stay where the river is going. It becomes a little bit complicated. Or you could just kind of say, yeah, we're gonna have a river and you got to stick it in some part of your river and I'm not going to name it or whatever. I mean, not that there aren't solutions, but there's always complications with stuff, and trying to make it super drag and drop, so to speak, has its own issues. But all right, folks, this was fun. This was the Brukesian Duchy from Elven Tower Adventures. It was a fun read. I think it's really good. I definitely would think that if you've got your system down, because remember the system neutral, so you're not getting any mechanics, but if you got the system that you like, that you want, that you feel comfortable either using stats from those books or generating stats that you need for, you just kind of need an interesting but not too different setting. Is this still kind of, your Western medieval fantasy, but it's got a couple of interesting little bits that they're doing with it, and you just kind of want a setting for that? I think this would be a fine choice. They don't give you any adventure hooks per se, but there are plenty of locations, plenty of things going on. And I like the fact they give you some hex crawling rules to use if you don't have your own. So thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day, night, whenever you end up watching or listening to this. Game on, and I will talk to you later. Bye now.